I once had one of my engineering manager was asking that, Aisha, why are you scheduling release planning? Why are you keep talking about release planning? So my thinking is that anything that's inside our sprint backlog should be deemed releasable. And as a team, you should release everything you have in your sprint backlog. So there's no need of you scheduling releases. And in my today's video, I'm going to be discussing why is it important for you to plan release, and also what is release planning. And welcome back to my channel. If you've been finding my content valuable, do not hesitate to subscribe to my channel. And behind me here, what is release? What is release planning? Think about release in general, right? We are answering the question of the stakeholders, right? When they're asked, when am I getting my product, right? And also, how much will it cost me? For how long do I have to wait to get this product? So that's why it's important for a Scrum team to do release planning. So the first thing I have behind me in my board is what is release. And I have what is release, and my goal about this video today is to be basically as simple as possible to discuss release. So we all know that as a Scrum team, developers will do the development process and the QA will do the testing, and after that we meet our definition of done, then our increment is born. So after this increment is born, usually for some company, it's not always that they have to do all of these releases right away. So it takes like a lot of coordination and also a lot of planning for us to now release this potential valuable increment to our end users. So the first thing I have in my board behind me here is to answer the question, what is release? What is release? And what I have in here is basically shipping out products to our end users. And to be honest, that's the simplest way I can define release. And also it can be called like shipping our deliverable to the customer. Because why? Remember, our product backlog, we have order of prioritized product in there, right? Coming from our customers and coming from the feedback we're getting from our end users. And during the release planning or during the release, we are now discussing when would the customer get their valuable increments. And release is basically just giving this valuable increments to your end users. Because sometimes as a team, especially in Scrum, right, we all know that we deliver part of an increment iteratively. So unlike in Waterfall, where we do like a big bang release, whereby they'll do the whole year of development testing, and at the end of the day, they will now have one big bang launch, right? But in Agile, incrementally, and you can release a feature, you can release like after multiple sprints, so it depends. So the next thing I have in my board is what are types of releases. So a perfect example is about that. So let's think about our own personal telephone. I know I have an iPhone. We went back from iOS 12, and recently we are now, I think, in iOS 16. And whenever like they release that new feature, you look, if you read at the updates before you actually click updates of this new version you want in your telephone, if you read it, it's gonna tell you sometimes minimal bug fixes, security updates. They might tell you what you're actually updating your phone and why should you download the new version, because it can be faster speed and all of that. I know I read it sometimes when my iPhone is being updated. So that's a perfect example of Apple releasing this feature to us, the end users. So that's another just simple way for you that if in case you're confused about release. So in my bag, I have behind me that what we can release, we can have bug fixes. Sometimes there might be like issues or complaints from the end users, and they will get that feedback and the development team will fix it, and then we'll now update it to like release this better version for our end users. Like security updates, speed enhancements. This is very common nowadays because nobody want to be downloading an app and it's taking forever boarding. We all are so want it quicker and faster, right? And also new features in case you're working on a new development or you're building a new website. So those are just examples of some releases or type of releases you might be familiar with at work. And I have type releases. So sometimes when it comes to type of releases, it's based on your company, right? So as a Scrum Master, it's very important for you to ask your company, what type of releases do you do? Do you release daily? Do you release once every end of a sprint? Do you release after multiple sprints? So it's very important for you to ask this question, especially when you are new to the company. So what I have here, the first one is continued delivery and common in DevOps, whereby they basically release every single day. It might be new feature or new updates, and they will constantly release daily or even weekly to their end users. And it's very important too for you to communicate all of this as a Scrum team, because remember, the customers, we've already been told that, oh, by the end of next week, you will get this shippable increment, or by the end of next week you'll get this new feature added to your services. So, and it's important for everyone in the team and the stakeholder to know that, oh, at the end, my end user are expecting this, so at my team we have to like ensure that we can able to deliver this. And if at any reason it's not possible, we also have to communicate, because we know that in Agile we are flexible, right? At any given point we have to accept valuable change and feedback, right? So that's why it's very, very important for us to remember this in Agile. So then I have like my different, my product backlog I drew here, just to like make a little for people that my visual subscribers out there, in case maybe you didn't understand maybe all those types of releases. I just, okay, let me just be a little creative and have my product backlog here. And this is like a product backlog, and sometimes this can be done during release planning, or it can be like stakeholder planning meeting where the PO will help predict collaborating with the Scrum team. And I have the first product backlog at the bottom. Maybe it's already been estimated by the team that by this end of this sprint we can have a potential shippable increment in sprint 1. And then the product owner and the stakeholder already agree that we can combine sprint 1, sprint 2, and sprint 3 for release 1. And in this case, we might not release this potential shippable increment in sprint 1. We might just keep it until we complete all this other part before we can complete release 1. Sometimes this is very possible when you are actually building a new feature, a new project, whereby they can keep just 3 sprints to now release some part of the valuable increments to our end users, so we can get this feedback, right? And let's say then after these 3 release, then of course we'll get the feedback from our end users. We'll get the feedback, and the product owner to reorder the backlog and reprioritize the backlog and estimate with the team, and then they'll forecast that the next release can happen right after release 1. Then the following sprint we can also have release 1.2, just to build up from this one last release. So that's an example of releasing after end of an increment. You can wait and do like one batch release, and you can also basically release every end of a sprint. But it's very important for you all to know that it's very advisable in Agile and in Scrum for us to release as frequently as we can. Because why? We need that feedback loop. Because the more we release, the more feedback we can get from our end users. And as we get this feedback, we can able to better serve them, right? Because going back to our Agile manifesto, principle number 1, our highest priority is to satisfy our customers, right? So that's why it's very important for us to release valuable increments to our end user as we continue to deliver this potential shippable increment. So that's that. So now that we've understand a little bit about what is release and what can be part of a release and how can team or a company decide to release, let's talk about release planning. And if you see on the top of my release planning, I have when will it be done? Because to be honest, when you're part of this release planning, you are forecasting to think, the product owner and the stakeholder and the Scrum team, you're forecasting ahead to think, okay, when can I tell my stakeholder when will this be done? And also, how much might this cost them? How much will this cost? And I know sometimes as a Scrum Master, we don't talk about cost, but the product owner and the PMO office and the leadership, that's all can affect the whole releases, and also when and how the end user can get their valuable increments. So then I just defined the simple what a release planning is to me. It's basically is to forecast this valuable increment to be released next, right? So that's how I define it. I feel like it's a meeting whereby the stakeholder, the Scrum team, and whoever, like the sponsor or whoever, like maybe sometimes it can be the end user, whoever that have some kind of stake in this project or in this product, you basically coming together and discuss when or how can they get this increment of value. So it's very important I say value, right? Because in Scrum, we always like to focus on outcome, right? Not only output. It's true though, we do need the output because why? The input from our release planning will now be our output for our sprint planning. So that's why it's very important for us to include value, not only the numbers. So what are factors that can basically be so important when it comes to release planning? That's very, very important is basically number one is having a healthy ordered product backlog, right? So that's the number one factor that can affect how we plan for our releases. And having a healthy product backlog, that's definitely going to be coming from the PO end and also discussing with our end users. And then the next thing is having a high level of estimates, right? It's very important that we can estimate, maybe we might not estimate everything at the story level, but definitely at the epic or future, it can be estimated. And that's where the Scrum team comes in place, because the Scrum team will be the one who can turn a what a customer wants and now discuss the how, right? According to the Scrum guide. So it's only the development team can actually estimate how they can turn what this customer wants into a valuable increment. So that's why the Scrum team having this high level estimate also is very important factor that can affect our overall release planning. And at the end is also the team velocity. See, right? So the team velocity is very important also because then we can now able to forecast and predict how we can, okay, if you want this much in the product backlog that we've estimated at high level, so we're going to need this much of the team that can now at the end provide us this value. So it's very important. By the way, if you are not familiar with velocity and you still have question about velocity, take a moment and watch that velocity video. And by the way, if you've been finding my content valuable, do not hesitate to like and subscribe to my channel. I truly appreciate you all. You just take a moment, please like and subscribe to my channel. All right, so that's basically a very important factor that we all have to account for when it comes to forecasting our release. So the next thing I have is the release constraint. It's very important for me to mention the release constraint because why is that? We all know that in the predictive model, which is the traditional waterfall model, the scope, schedule, which is same as time, and the cost, which is the budget, like it's fixed, right? That's all what's being planned at initial state, even before development. And the goal for the traditional method is that for that should not be changed. Now that we already know about the product, it should remain the same throughout the duration of the project. But in Agile, that's not the case. Although all of this still is very important, right? Because the stakeholders will still have to spend their money or the sponsor, right? And they schedule the time because they want to know when can they have this product, right? And also the scope. All of this can determine when they can get their valuable product. So that's why in Agile, one of these must be flexible for us to be able to deliver this complex project in the Agile way of doing things. So one of these must be flexible, at least one of these must be flexible. Because if it's fixed, then we are not doing Agile, right? Then we are back to doing waterfall. But that's the beauty of doing Agile is that the customer are aware, the stakeholders are aware, everyone knows that this is what we basically have to do, and sometimes things might change. And as more is learned, right, we expect, especially if they are dealing with a complex project, as more is learned, we expect for our product backlog to be reordered, right, reprioritized, and our definition of done to might even change based on as we continue to learn more on this product. And the stakeholders will know ahead of time that, okay, although this is what we are predicting for right now and forecasting for right now, but as we continue to build and as we continue to go, we all expect that things to change, right? because that's why we're flexible in Agile, flexibility. But this release constraint also is very important for me to mention that. So who participates in release? I was once asked this question like, okay, who participates in release? Who even make the fact that they'll say that, oh yes, we're releasing on this date. But I know it's true the product owner have a heavy say on that, right? While collaborating with the stakeholder, collaborating with the Scrum team, all this can help determine when we're going to be releasing next. But it's very important to know that these three factors is so important for actually forecasting the release. So it's important for us to have the product owner, right? Because they have the knowledge about the product roadmap, the product vision, and also when and how they can reorder or order the product backlog. Ensure that it's also high and prioritized of value. And the team, they're the one estimating. The Scrum team basically are the one giving the high level of estimate because they are the one doing the work. And also the team velocity, like the average velocity, maybe all that affect that. And also the customer, or the end user or the sponsor, they are the one expecting this new valuable increment. So it's best for them all to be part of this release planning meeting. If possible, I know some of you are like, oh Aisha, maybe is this even possible? I know sometimes at work we can do this. I know it's possible because I've done it one time. I know it can definitely, so that can basically be better predicted than if you just do it only the product owner doing it. So the product owner should collaborate with all of the team and the stakeholder to help forecast the releases. And I cannot discuss about release and not touch on the burn-up chart, right? So because I just want to have an example to show you all about when it comes to when the customer might be asking, oh, when can we have this product? Or when can we get this increment of value? How much do we have to spend, And that's when the product owner will always use the burn-up chart to predict, right? So I have an example here on the burn-up chart. So let me just this is just a quick example. And this example is based on 2-week sprints, right? And also the scope is fixed. This is like an example of like a fixed scope scenario. And also based on 2-week sprints. And let's say after the team did a high level estimate of the item in the product backlog for this next future or this next valuable increment they have to deliver to the end users, the team estimated that it will take them 80 story points. It will take the team 80 story points to actually deliver this value of increments, 80. So that's why I have the scope line here at 80. So let's say the team estimated that it will take them 80 story points to deliver this increment of value. And then the next thing we have to look for is the team velocity, right? And let's say the team have history of data, because then my next question, people will be like, so Aisha, what if my team is new? What if my team have no data? So what can we do about that? I'll touch on that. But first, let's just discuss on a team that actually have data. They've been working together and they have data of average velocity, where we can look back at 3 sprints and get the average and see the average velocity. So I have different scenario here. By the way, this is story points, right? And this is sprints. This is sprints, and we all know that the burn-up chart, as more as it's completed, the line will going up. Unlike the burn-down chart, as what's remaining, the line will be going down. So this is the burn-up chart. So now let's estimate that we have the average velocity for our team is 20, right? Our team average velocity is 20, and the team already estimated that for this work to be completed, it will take them 80 story points. And then the stakeholder asking, oh, by when can we get this product? So then I'll just divide the 80 over 20. So when you divide the 80 that was estimated during this release planning, and the team average velocity, it's gonna give 4 sprints. It will take them 4 sprints. So it will basically take this team at average, based on their average data, it will take them 4 sprints to complete all these items in the product backlog that was predicted during release planning. So then if I go the line, I put it at this average. Oh, I don't have my green pen. I just put it down. So you see, for them to basically, as they are completing to get to their target of estimate, when it's a fixed scope, it will take them 4 sprints to actually complete all of this item. So then the product owner will go and tell the stakeholder, oh, by the way, it will take the team 4 sprints for them to complete this next feature for us to release it to you. And remember, if something changed too, then this target might change, right? Because as the product owner will have add all things or reorder or add more prioritized items, if these targets change, then the scope then will change, right? And that's when everything else will have to change. Because that's Agile, right? That's why we're doing Agile. So let's say now we're taking an example of a team lower velocity, whereby the team actually have a lower velocity. And with the team lower velocity, we're taking in this case is 15 story points. And by the way, these are all story points. And then I'll go back to my initial estimates that the team estimated during the release planning. So we have 80 over 15 equal, it's gonna be 5 point something, right? I think 5.3. But then in that case, if the product owner predicted using the lower estimates, it will take the team 5 sprints. 5 sprints to complete this product backlog item. 5 sprints. Oh, I have my red pen here. It's like the sprint, 5 sprints. 5 sprints to actually get to that, to complete that target of 80. And let's say the team are working so good and they're working ahead of more than their average velocity. The team are actually working like that. And in this case, the team are able to complete 80, which is the target 25, are able to complete 25 story points, and as they're actually working, they're able to do more than the average velocity. And in this case, it might take them even shorter time, 3 sprints. Because it's 3 point something something. So it might take them 3 sprints to actually get for the end user to get this valuable product. So this is just example of if the scope is actually fixed and nothing have changed. But if things have changed, then definitely the product owner have to go back to the stakeholder and say, okay, we learned about this, and during our sprint review, you gave a feedback of this, you wanted this, and now this is what we can do. And what if the stakeholder said that, oh, we didn't like this product, we don't like this at all, then guess what? You're going back to restart everything and replan everything. It's very important for you just to know that this is just a plan, right? The most important thing in Agile, what we continue to do, is to prioritize value, right? A valuable outcome for our end user over being so obsessed with following all of these numbers. It's very important for me to make this comment. So now let's just say now we have the stakeholder now are asking, they're asking about okay, but in the next 2 months, how many story points what a team can deliver? They can ask a question like that, in the next 2 months, how many story points can the team deliver in the next 2 months? And then they're giving basically then a fixed schedule, right? A fixed date. And now you are giving a fixed schedule, which is time, you're giving that is one time, is fixed. And then we all know that I'm going back to the technique of 2-week sprints, right? And we know in 2 months we have 4 sprints, right? And we already know that our team average velocity is 20. So then you go back, you do 4 times 20 equals 80. So then we can tell our stakeholder that it will take our team 80 story points to complete 2 months worth of work, if we are going by the average velocity. And if you're asking about what about if the team can do more, then it's going to be can do more, this number going to be higher, and they can get that. So it's very important for you to know that you can basically come up with all of this number based on how you are being asked, as a stakeholder is being asked, when will they get the product, when are they going to be expecting that. And in release planning, you are just forecasting and predicting, and things can change at any given point. I hope my video about the release planning have been so valuable to you all. And if so, you've been finding this content valuable, please like and subscribe to my channel. And also, if you're interested in mentorship, do not hesitate to email me at admin@aishascrumtech.com. Thank you for watching my videos and see you all again next time.